Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Show, the program that helps you turn obstacles into opportunities, challenges into solutions, and find answers to tough questions. And now, the award-winning powerhouse voice of radio. Here's your host, Patricia Raskin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show that's in its 19th year on Voice America. And today we're talking about how we can use our energy in the right way with an expert, a woman I've known for many years. Her name is Melissa Zollo. She is a leading inspirational speaker and mentor and imagist. She's a certified vibrational sound practitioner and Touch for Health energy balancing facilitator. After surviving a serious and debilitating head injury in 1992, Melissa rewired her brain and created a new reality for herself using the law of attraction, manifestation, and the power of the imaginal dynamic. She has helped people all over the world heal from pain, from emotional trauma, and self-defeating patterns in her workshops, teleseminars, and online courses. Melissa created the Imaginal Dynamic series and has lectured on the universal laws of consciousness and the power of imagination for 30 years. Welcome, Melissa Zollo.
Hello, Patricia.
Oh, great to have you. All right. So, what brought you to want to know about self-healing and the power of mind healing?
Well, I would say that, I didn't know anything about self-healing growing up. And, as a child, I felt very different than other people. I certainly wasn't on the same page as others, but I knew, from what I gathered that I was a strong, independent kid. And I didn't match the extremely difficult family circumstances that I was born into. And that impacted my emotional life, and I would say that was one of the keys that I certainly wasn't conscious of, but it was propelling me forward. I left home when I was 17, much against my family's wishes, and I became an actress. And it was acting that opened my eyes and the door to my learning how to redirect recurring feelings of frustration, sadness, anxiety into a script and express my feelings in appropriate ways. But what I discovered is acting didn't transform them. So as I was in my career, I was dealing with some health obstacles, and I realized that my subconscious circuits were overloaded by these programs and beliefs and trauma. So to answer your question, it was my own unhappiness, poor emotional health, and injuries that led me to wanting to really know about self-healing and the power of the mind over matter.
It's amazing. Probably 70% of the people I've interviewed in the 5,000 interviews over decades and decades have been through something and they've healed themselves and they write about it. And that's the best teacher, right, Melissa? Because you've been there. You've been through it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that experience, as opposed to book learning, getting a degree, and then speaking on the subject of self-healing, I think it's very different.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you, did you have a personal health challenge? And I know you did. And this was a catalyst for you to develop your focus on conscious manifestation and a holistic and new way of thinking. So explain that a little more.
Well, I've had many health challenges since I had that serious head injury. I had a serious head injury, a brain injury, that collapsed my life. In an instant. I was this vibrant, I was a dancer, I was an actress, I was a scuba diver, and all of my dreams of having a theatrical career dissolved with a blow to my head from a bench that wasn't nailed down properly. And with that also went a meaningful relationship that I was in. So I understand how pain, trauma, injuries, illness can seemingly rob us. But it was that injury that propelled me into not just the darkest experience of my life, it propelled me into the beginning of rising into new levels of awareness.
Mm. So do you feel that healing is a matter of reward or punishment? Do we have to be perfect to be healed?
No, we don't. Healing for me is not a matter of reward or punishment. Healing for me is a matter of reconnecting to the life force that's within us. It's, most of us have short-circuited the connection to the life force by those early programs or imprints or experiences in our lives. And we gave way to the fear and anger and anxiety and have an overload of perhaps sadness or resentment, unforgiveness, bitterness. But in order to heal, as far as I'm concerned, the first step is pick up the plug. Second step, stick it back in the socket. Third, and make that connection so that you are restored in consciousness to the life force within. That to me is essential because healing for me is a matter of increasing awareness. It's a matter of surrendering resistance, and it's growing beyond the addiction to the distress habits that we generally go back to and perceive ourselves in. That's really for me. So I always say healing is a matter of connecting with the powerful life force, which in fact is who we really are a part of. And that will lead to emotional, mental balance, which is essential for our immune health, emotional health, mental health, and spiritual health.
Do you feel, Melissa, that there are different levels of healing? Or is it all kind of gradual? It's just the more you heal, then you heal on different layers? What do you think?
Maybe both, actually. But what I think there are different levels. Some people can go to a medical doctor, and they can take a drug. They can go to a chiropractic and have their structure rearranged. They can go to a nutritionist and do biochemistry work. So that's a level of healing: diet, therapy, exercise, drugs, herbs. All that's a level. The second level or another level is to deal, with our feelings. And begin to understand them and to be able to heal an emotional wound of the heart is a major step in healing. And there are modalities that, definitely focus on that. Kinesiology does, breath therapy does, meditation, acupuncture. And then there is the third level or another level of healing, which for me deals with thoughts, beliefs, attitudes, emotions, mind, the mental field, which is a field or a level that I deal with a lot with my clients in the work that I do. So we have those levels, and then we even can go up further to, the level of intuition, and there are clearings that happen in that level that deal with, the collective unconsciousness and mind. There's sound healing. And then there's healing at the highest level, at least for me. I mean, there certainly could be more, but I'm just saying in terms of consciousness, higher consciousness or spirit. And that's the realm for me of imagination, or someone could say prayer, but that's where the true self-healing occurs for me first in the realm of awareness, the realm of imagination.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to tell you, because it's been a few years since I interviewed you, and there's something I always remember that you said, and every time I think of you, it was one of your webinars, or in those days, one of your tapes. And I was listening, and you were talking about getting what you want out of life. And you said, this isn't exact, but you said something like, you don't go to the hardware store to buy milk. Meaning we're looking, right? We're looking in the wrong, we want something, and so we pick the wrong place. We know it's not the right place, but we think we're going to get it there. So I thought that really stayed with me.
Well, I think, I don't know if it was Einstein, but he said the solution to your problem is never going to be found at the same level of the problem. I think I said something like, if you plant corn, you don't get tomatoes. If you keep planting corn and expect to get, tomatoes, you're not going to get it. And that's, to me, the same thing as saying a lot of people are pastaholics. Oh, they say they want to change, but their senses are outer focused. And therefore, it's like a washing machine. They're just recycling the same old emotional reactions and projecting them onto, what could be new situations.
Yeah, well, I also think, you can relate that to relationships, where you keep picking the wrong person. You think you got the right person, and yet, it's that same old dynamic. And you're looking for kindness. I'm giving an example. You're looking and then you keep picking people who aren't kind. Well, you're not going to get a kind person when it's the same analogy.
Exactly. Yeah, it works across, for me, and my focus is creative imagining, the use of imagination, and states of consciousness. So we can say relationship, we can say finances, we could say career, we can say health. They are all, think of yourself or myself as a farmer, and they're plots of the land you own. So you look at them and I say, oh, my relationships, oh, my health, oh, my career, oh, my, finances. And then I stop and say, well, what kind of a farmer were you? What did you plant? Yeah. And, and then look at what you're getting, and then, that's the beginning of saying, what do I need to change? Do I need to change the fertilizer? Do I need to change the seed? What is it that I need to change in order to get the result or the effect that I want to project onto the screen of space and time?
Yes, that's so good. Melissa, we're going to take a break. Do you, before we do, how can people find you, and do you do individual consultations and sessions? Explain that. We have about a minute before break. Okay.
Well, my website is presentmemory.com. And people can go there, and there's a contact page, and they can contact me if they would like. The work that I do now, I've cut back tremendously. I don't do travel with Melissa anymore. I used to take clients to different spas around the world, and I'm not doing webinars. I'm simply doing one-on-one consults. And my work varies, according to the needs of the client. I have different options of different kinds of sessions that I offer people. One is imagery patterning, one is memory reconciliation, one is restorative spiritual reset, and one is emotional reboot. So everything that I do is really about helping someone move stuck energy, understand resistance, learn how to consciously image, and understand that once you image, you have to rebuild belief as you clear the energy off of the traumatic or unwanted program that's running. So that pretty much explains the work that I'm doing and where I'm at now.
Wonderful. You really tailor it to the individual needs. All right, we're going to come back with Melissa Zollo right after the break. And just to give you a capsule, she is an inspirational speaker, mentor, imagist, certified vibrational sound practitioner, and Touch for Health energy balancing facilitator. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show right here on Voice America. We'll be right back.
Streaming live, the leader in Internet Talk Radio, VoiceAmerica.com.
A brave heart is anyone with the courage to be of service to others. If you have that courage, then Bravehearts Radio with Brian Reinbold is for you. Even if you aren't yet, you'll want to still tune in to get inspired, create your own story to share, and change your life for the better. Listen to the stories of service and courage shared by amazing guests, and your input too. Listen for Bravehearts Radio, Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern Time and 1 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel. Remember, doing good anywhere does good everywhere.
On Read My Lips Radio, producer and host, aka Radio Red, invites you to eavesdrop on her live, unscripted conversations with smart, savvy, creative people as she discovers what makes them tick, where they find their inspiration, when creativity first became their passion, and how their creative process can inspire the rest of us to think out of the box. Enjoy aka Radio Red's always lively, cool conversations with creatives. Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the Voice America Variety Channel. Oh, how those lips can talk.
Psych Up Live with host Dr. Suzanne Phillips offers a psychological perspective on coping with common and current life issues. This show addresses topics as varied as marital stress, insomnia, depression, raising teens, campus violence, and building self-resilience. Listen in as Dr. Phillips and her guest experts share the latest in books, findings, and information that will inform and enhance your life journey. Psych Up Live is heard every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit facebook.com/Voice America.
You are listening to The Patricia Raskin Show. If you wish to call into our program today, please call 1-866-472-5788. That number again is 1-866-472-5788. You may also send an email to patricia@patriciaraskin.com. Now, back to The Patricia Raskin Show.
Hi, everyone, and we are back, and my guest is Melissa Zollo. Melissa Zollo is a nonconformist and seeker of truth. She spent years searching for practical solutions at seemingly insurmountable challenges in her life, gaining wisdom and a deep understanding of the transformative power of consciousness, focused imagination, and energy balancing. After a serious, debilitating head injury, Melissa developed a spiritual system which explains the secret of causation, enabling her to rewire her brain and triumph over her injury and adversity. Her amazing and profound method provides a path for others to create a new reality for themselves. This street-smart and spirit-wise woman provides tools to transform emotion, reset unsatisfying mental blueprints, to rebuild belief in personal and professional success, and to help increase the miracle-working powers of consciousness. She is an imagist, an ordained minister, a spiritual mind practitioner, a memory reconciliation practitioner, an energy and psychological kinesiologist, and a vibrational sound practitioner and sound healer. She's the author of multiple audio programs, including Discover the Power of Imagination and the Art of Intentional Creation, and How to Unleash the Power Within and Attract Money. And her client base includes professionals in the fields of health, finance, publishing, higher education, sports, and the arts. You can go to her website, presentmemory.com. Welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about you. I know you are an ordained minister and a spiritual mind practitioner, but you never refer to yourself as a healer. You refer to yourself as an imagist. For those who don't know what a spiritual mind practitioner and imagist is, please explain.
Well, for me, a spiritual mind practitioner is someone who feels a strong connection to the life force within, to this healing presence, and they have a deep intuitive awareness into core beliefs, and I would say for myself, a complete conviction that divine presence can transcend and override these lower programs that are replaying in the subjective mind. So for me, spiritual mind treatment differs from many who think of it as affirmative prayer. I think of it as the application of spiritual principles to impossible circumstances. And I rely totally on, the spirit within to bring about the change that the client is asking for via specific procedures within the consciousness or the imagination, because I truly believe imagining creates reality. In terms of being an imagist, I would never say I'm a healer. It goes against every cell in my body. I think there is only one healer. It is the healer that made the body. It is the living spirit. It is consciousness. It's divine imagination. Call it God. Call it whatever you will. But I would never say I'm a healer. I say imagist because, I'll tell you a story, how this came about, really. I did a speaking engagement at the Hilton Hotel many years ago. And, and I was walking around in the audience, and I saw there were people, there were different people of different religious backgrounds, Jewish people, Christian people, people who were of Middle Eastern and also Eastern. So there were all these people. And I remember one man said, well, I don't believe in any religion. I'm an atheist. And so, when I went up there, I was thinking about this on my way up, and I thought, okay, so listen. And I said, everybody who's Christian, raise your hand, everybody. And then I said, well, okay, so there's a dividing line in that conviction of what you believe in. I said, but close your eyes and let's all go within and imagine a rose or a dollar bill. And the whole room was silent, and everyone turned within themselves. You could feel it. And in that instant, I said, that's 5 steps above. That's the penthouse, and that's who I want to represent myself as. I am an imagist because I rely on my imagination, and everyone got it. Everyone got it. It was such a great moment, and so I've referred to myself as an imagist or a spiritual mind practitioner. This is going back many, many years, but that's how it came about.
Yeah. I was reading several of your testimonials on your website, presentmemory.com, and 2 stuck with me. Could you share with our listeners the stories of these 2 women? One is an RN. Could you explain that one, and then we can do the second one?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, this is a very, amazing testimonial to have received at this particular time in what's going on in the world with the pandemic. I found out about an RN who had been working in a hospital, and with patients, all the patients she cared for were tested positive on the virus. And suddenly, the negative energy that was around her and the sickness in the environment got to her, and she became very ill. I found out about this, and so a session was arranged for her to have to work with me. Now, she knew nothing really about my work, really not much about me, but as I open all my sessions, or even before, I always tell someone you need to be in a quiet space, no interruptions, because once I open it, I feel extremely responsible for that person's well-being on all levels of their being. And so the session opened, and we began about 2-3 minutes into it, and suddenly she says, oh, wait, I got a call from the hospital. She said, I have to take it. So I had never had that happen before, but I said, okay. I said, why don't you call me back, and we'll start again. So I sat down. I just stayed very calm. She called me back a few minutes later, and she said the hospital wanted to send an ambulance for me to go into the emergency room because my symptoms are so bad. I've been throwing up and dehydrated for many days, and I said, well, what did you choose? Do you need to go? And she said, no, I want to continue with this session. And I have never had that happen in my life. And in that moment, I said, this woman who knows nothing about the work I did, there's something in her that knows something. And so bravo to her. So we did a restorative spiritual reset with image repatterning and energy clearing. I never asked her anything else, anything about her her illness or nothing, because I know nothing about it. I think I'm one of the few people on the planet. I don't have a TV. I don't have a radio. I don't tune into anything on disease. So I was in a state of perfect health. I was in a vibration and the state of opening my heart and mind to the spirit that has the solution and the healing for all things. So we'd go through the session, and at the end, I basically just said to her, I would recommend that you rest. And she said, well, I think that, maybe I should have another session. I said, well, first find out. Let's see what happens. And we hang up. I get a message the next morning saying, I don't know what happened, but I feel brand new. I felt like I was, she said, I felt like I was dying, like I was withering away, that something was just pulling me out. And I feel great now. She said, the symptoms have all subsided. Now, I want to make this clear to anyone listening. I did not do anything except facilitate, put the image in, you follow, and then turn it over to spirit. But this is what amazes me. She did a second session with me, and about 10 days later was back at work, no symptoms, and she's still working. So to me, now somebody who doesn't understand the law of manifestation and how manifestation occurs, or who comes from a religious background, will say that was a miracle. And in fact, one could say easily, yeah, that was a miracle. But because I know that miracles are still, they still have to go along the line of conscious manifestation, what I would say is that woman's faith, that woman's desire to be healed or healthy, and was in that session revealed. It was a beautiful, intense, deep session. And I'll tell you one other thing. When people are up against the wall, their resistance is nowhere to be found. It's gone. They have such a desire, such focus. They are so open, and I think that's also part of it. It
has to come from her. I mean, she had to.
Yes.
You could lay the groundwork, as you said, you were the facilitator, but she had to have the will and the desire in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I really believe all healing is self-healing. All healing is self-healing. I don't care what modality, or what level. It always goes back to the heart of the other person.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I say all healing is self-healing.
It's wonderful. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, there's another story of someone else who had an amazing experience that I'm going to have you share as well, Melissa. We're talking to Melissa Zollo, and she's just an amazing. She created the Imaginal Dynamic series, and she's an imagist as well as many other things. And we will come back and tell you again in depth everything that Melissa does right after the break, right here on VoiceAmerica.com, America's Voice. I'm Patricia Raskin. We'll be right back.
The Internet's #1 talk station. #1 talk station. VoiceAmerica.com.
Want an insider's pass to everything that goes on in Hollywood? Join Summer Helene every week for Behind the Scenes. Summer Helene is known as the Duchess of Hollywood because she knows the insiders, legends, and celebs, and brings the stories, the gossip, and the backstage scoop. It's the real Hollywood, though, so this program is for adults only. Behind the Scenes can be heard live every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Join 5-time world and international boxing champion, mental health advocate, writer, and speaker Mia St. John for In the Ring with Mia. After losing her ex-husband and son to mental illness, Mia has set out to empower those who deal with mental illness, homelessness, poverty, and addiction. Tune in and join Mia in the ring. And together, you'll find the help and motivation that you need. Listen live every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time and 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Are you finding your frequency? It can be described as that space between failure and success. It's the future of digital media. It's finding your voice. It's engaging topics, content, and ideas. Jeff and Ryan discuss the digital media space and all of its aspects. It's about making the mistakes, taking the chances, summoning the intestinal fortitude to step out of your comfort zone, and discovering what you can accomplish when you decide to try, decide to learn, decide that you have something to say, and find your frequency. Live Fridays at 12 noon Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Voice America is on your favorite smart speaker. If you have Alexa or Google Home, go ahead and give us a try.
Hey Alexa, play Finding Your Frequency podcast on TuneIn.
You are listening to The Patricia Raskin Show. If you wish to call into our program today, please call 1-866-472-5788. That number again is 1-866-472-5788. You may also send an email to patricia@patriciaraskin.com. Now, back to The Patricia Raskin Show.
Hi, everyone, and we are back. And my guest, Melissa Zollo, is quite an amazing woman, and her bio is very long, so I'm going to shorten it for you, but we'll come up with the really important pieces here. Melissa is a seeker of truth. She has spent years searching for practical solutions to seemingly insurmountable challenges in her life after she's had serious and debilitating injuries. She's rewired her own brain, and she has now helped just thousands of people. She is an imagist, an ordained minister. She's a spiritual mind practitioner. She's a memory reconciliation practitioner. She's an energy and psychological kinesiologist and a vibrational sound practitioner and sound healer. She's the author of multiple audio programs, including Discover the Power of Imagination and the Art of Intentional Creation, and How to Unleash the Power Within and Attract Money. And she works with people one-to-one. Look her up, presentmemory.com. She's been doing this work for 3 decades. I met her probably 2 decades ago, and her work is very powerful. So welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, and let's look at how powerful your work is by telling the second story of someone that you worked with. Explain that one.
Well, I don't know which one you're referring to.
This is the woman who around 10 p.m. knew her body was in serious trouble, and she called 911. The EMT workers rushed her to the ER in a nearby hospital. She was stabilized and went to sleep. And when she woke in the morning, she immediately called Reverend Melissa Zollo for help and spiritual treatment. Okay,
I know who you're talking about. Yes. Again, this is another standout, very unusual occurrence. I usually don't start working until 9 in the morning, but my phone rang. It was 7 a.m., and this woman called me telling me immediately that I'm in the ER. They don't know what's wrong with me. Will you do a spiritual mind treatment? And so I just sat down, and we did the treatment. And a few hours later, I get a call from her saying, Melissa, I need to do another session with you because they're going to do surgery. They're going to cut me open, and I'm very nervous about that. So now, this is a very important thing to understand as a practitioner. I'm dealing with someone who's sitting in the most volatile situation under the care of surgeons, and one does not want to in any way interfere on any dimension with another person's soul or experiences. So I tell you, I took a few deep breaths that morning, and I said, okay, so we did another treatment. An hour later, she called me again, and she said, the surgeon's in my room, and there are about 4 or 5 other doctors here. There's a large pulmonary embolism next to my heart. I tell you, I said to her, don't tell me one more thing. Now, here's the reason why. I do not want to be influenced in any way. I simply go into the highest realm for myself of where all things are possible, to the realm of solution, to the living spirit. And so she said, and this is a first for me, she said, Melissa, the surgeon's right here. Will you talk to him? Now, of course, honestly, I took a breath because I said, this surgeon is not going to get on the phone with me. And I could hear her say, she's a minister. Would you speak to her? So he got on the phone, and I said to him, what's the outcome? I didn't want to know everything that was wrong. I wanted to ask him, what's the outcome that you would like for this surgery? And he proceeded to tell me things that were wrong, because most of the time that's where people come from, the diagnosis. And so at the end, and honest to God, this is the truth of what came out of my mouth, I said, Doctor, would it be fair to say that what you want is the boo-boo to go away and for complete restoration of circulation, like perfect circular health? Would that be a good outcome for you? And I could hear him just stop and take a breath and say, yeah, that's it. That's perfect. And I said, would you mind if I put in a word or two for that outcome? And he laughed a bit and he said, yes. So, and this was on speakerphone for all the doctors. Everyone was hearing this conversation, and the patient. Wow.
That's amazing.
And then we hung up. I hung up. I did the treatment. We hung up. And an hour, was it hour or maybe 2 hours? I don't know. But I got a call a few hours later saying, Melissa, you won't believe this, but the surgeon was replaced. Another surgeon or another doctor came in. They checked my vitals, and guess what? They're not going to operate. This all happened in real time.
Wow.
So now, and then she said they're going to administer medication. They're going to monitor me for a few days in the ICU, and then if all goes well, they're going to send me home. And when all this occurred, their take was that they felt the medicine, taken orally could dissolve the clot. Now, I did none of that. I simply took the image, the outcome, and I gave it to the spirit within. I imagined clearly. I acted with complete conviction and expectation that the healer within, the living spirit, had the ways and the means to do the healing, to alter the circumstances if necessary in order to bring about a manifestation, no matter how unlikely, how unpredictable, or how impossible. I don't go there. I go to the outcome, and I very quietly stay there until I feel, and then I turn it over, and then I let go, and I don't think about it again. And so that woman was home within 2 weeks and back and in life within 3 or 4 weeks, and she's doing really well, I understand. So those are two outstanding, I would say, really miraculous manifestations. And again, I say they both depended really on the level of faith and heart opening to a positive result of those two individuals.
But as you said, it comes from them. They had to have that will and that desire and that openness, as you said. I also thought you said something very interesting which captured me, Melissa. I mean, everything has, but this really stood out for me. You said when you are up against it, meaning you're really about to fall out and you're at the bottom, that's when you are often most receptive to the healing. Unfortunately, it has to come to that sometimes for people, but that's when you open up, when you're at the bottom.
Because most people are operating from resistance. Most people are saying, oh, I want to change. And then when you go to the program that's running, they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I'll give you an example. I had a client just a week ago who wants to experience harmonious relationships, And so what came up in the session was a program running of unresolved anger with her ex-husband. And so I try to explain that in order to go forward into harmonious relationship, there has to be a clearing, an energetic clearing of the debris, the leftover muck, the psychic pus, whatever you want to call it, from the unresolved energy on that memory has to clear. I'm not playing around with, miracles and things like that. I'm so grounded in this. And there is resistance to letting go. But I truly believe that you meet the client where they're at, and you never make them feel badly about where they're at. Instead, you stay at that moment and assist them to acknowledge those unresolved feelings, that stuck energy, because it's the stuck energy that's the issue. And so it may take a few more minutes or time or sessions. Essentially, when the person gets to see that their foot is on the brake to going forward into what they truly desire, then the resistance begins to subside. Resistance is always a, but you don't understand, but you don't know what happened, but you don't know what he did to me 20 years ago. There's always a but, and that but, I, being very intuitive and sensitive, I can see the whole thing. So that's a really important point. When somebody is, with my situation, I mean, I was holding on to life by my fingernails, and I had no one to turn to. I had no one to call to say, lift me up, clear this, do this for me. All I had was a memory. I had been introduced to Margaret Ruth Broom, who is a New Thought not a practitioner, a writer, and she was the editor of Neville Goddard's work, and they were proponents of what Phineas Quimby, the leader or the founder of New Thought, was, which is that you have the power to heal and rise. So for me, I only had myself. So my way of working with myself was, boy, your thoughts and images and feelings got you into this mess, and your thoughts, feelings, and images are going to get you out of this mess for one reason, Melissa.
Right.
Because,
go ahead. And we're going to close on that.
Okay. Because the reason, and I wanted, you're going to rise like the phoenix or die, right. But I wanted to test spiritual principles out. And I did, and, that's what and I proved them.
And it's worked, yeah, absolutely. And we're going to take a break on that note. And when we come back, we're going to talk about how you work with people remotely, sessions people have, you're conscious on imagining, and what imagining does, and what breakthroughs are all about, and sometimes they don't last, and about the different kinds of work that you do in terms of clearings. You're listening to the Patricia Raskin. Yep. But we'll have a whole like 9 minutes to do it. So we're talking to Melissa Zollo, who's an amazing healer, she doesn't like to be called a healer, so let's say imagist. She's an amazing imagist and facilitator, and take a look at her website, Present Memory, correct? PresentMemory.com. All right, I'm Patricia Raskin. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Stimulating talk.
It gets those synapses in the brain firing really fast.
All the time. The #1 Internet talk station where your opinion counts. VoiceAmerica.com.
Have you ever experienced the joy of living? Not just aspects of your life, but the true joy of life itself. Barry Shore has. You could call him an ambassador of joy. From a successful entrepreneur to becoming a quadriplegic due to a rare disease, to his ongoing recovery through swimming and physical rehabilitation, Barry now presents his gifts to others as host of The Joy of Living. All you need to do is tune in. Listen live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time and 1 p.m. Eastern on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Join Chris Epting every week for The Moment. Chris talks to some of the most amazing people you'll ever meet, including authors, artists, and athletes. And that's just the A-list. These celebrities and public figures have interesting stories that all showcase the moments that their lives took a certain dramatic turn, changing them forever and shaping them to be the person that they were meant to be. Listen for The Moment with Chris Epting, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Planning for college? Tune in to Getting In, a college coach conversation for tips, techniques, and insider perspectives, hosted by Elizabeth Heaton, a former admissions officer at the University of Pennsylvania, and featuring her fellow admissions and college finance experts from Bright Horizons College Coach. The show shares what colleges are really looking for and how to highlight your hard-won achievements for the best chance at success. New episodes air every Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel.
Follow us on Twitter at VoiceAmericaTRN. Get the lowdown on guests, new shows, and your favorites. That's VoiceAmericaTRN.
You are listening to The Patricia Raskin Show. If you wish to call into our program today, please call 1-866-472-5788. That number again is 1-866-472-5788. You may also send an email to patricia@patriciaraskin.com. Now, back to The Patricia Raskin Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. My guest for the whole hour is Melissa Zollo. And Melissa is an imagist, an ordained minister, a spiritual mind practitioner, a memory reconciliation practitioner, an energy and psychological kinesiologist, and a vibrational sound practitioner and sound healer. Her audio programs include Discover the Power of Imagination, The Art of Attentional Creation, and how to unleash the power within and attract money. And she is a seeker of truth. She has been through insurmountable challenges in her own life, serious and debilitating head injuries and other injuries that really helped her and enabled her to rewire her own brain and triumph herself over injury and adversity. And so her method is based on what she's been through. She's been helping people for 30 years. And her website is presentmemory.com. Welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay, how do you work with people remotely, and how many sessions do people have, and explain that?
Well, I've always worked remotely. I am very gifted in being able to listen to someone, and in the listening, they could be saying, "My name is Jane," but I'm hearing how they feel about being called Jane. In other words, excuse me, I have an intuitive sense, so I can pick up beliefs that people are feeling. So for me, having a one-on-one session remotely is so much more conducive to getting to the root cause of the program that the person truly wants to release, and also helping to design the mental blueprint or image that would be replacing that old program. So I'm much more at ease on the phone. When you're with someone physically, you're looking at them, and somehow they expect you to go on the dance floor with their story. And in my sessions, I'm not interested in the story. I'm interested in the moment. I'm interested in what is it that you want, and how to go from there. So that's why I've done remote work from the first moment of my first session, which is over 30 years ago.
Wow. Now, your focus is on conscious manifestation, imagination, and that imagining creates reality. Explain that.
Well, for me, conscious manifestation is definite spiritual thinking. It's not race thinking. It's not the inherited thinking. It's not the thinking that's bouncing off of our outer senses, looking at circumstances outside of us. conscious manifestation is definite spiritual thinking. It's the definite use of imagination within ourselves, upon ourselves, about ourselves, to change ourselves. It's totally involved with conscious movement of thought, because thought creates results. I choose a dream seed, or if I'm working with a client, we choose what the desire is of what they really want, and then we design a mental blueprint or image of that. We find the ideas that would be in harmony with that outcome, because I do not teach, apply affirmations. Do not come to me asking for an affirmation, because 2, 3, 4, 10, 1,000 people do not think of the same blueprint the same way. So many people teach and give out affirmations. I don't. I really hope to inspire people to think, and I'm not talking about, just the reshuffling of prejudices. I'm talking about really learning how to think, because the thinker and the thought, the energy and the field are one. So it's really important for people to develop their capacity to think, because if you can't think, there's no way you're going to choose properly. And then, conscious manifestation is the energizing or fertilizing of that blueprint or that image, knowing how to plant it, knowing how to surrender it into that infinite womb of wonder, the infinite intelligence or consciousness within. And so, because I know the laws of life, and I taught them for 30 years, I know that every emotionalized blueprint or picture that's created in the mind must by law come to pass. And that's one reason why I encourage people to take their attention and awareness off of the media and off of illness and off of disease, because as you're ingesting it and reacting to it, you are negatively planting blueprints and programs into your subjective mind, and there's always, it's like you say, earlier bringing up, if you plant corn, you don't get tomatoes. 99.9% of people do not know what they're doing and what they're allowing into their subconscious minds. They don't know how their reactions are fueling, I don't want to say illness outcomes, but unhealthy outcomes, or, or unbalanced outcomes in their life.
Yeah.
So for me, go ahead.
Now, I just want to say, you talk about breakthroughs, and because we're talking about that, and you say they don't last. What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is, I consider I'm still in the process of healing my brain. There's a difference between healing and complete cure. So I know from personal experience that I can have a breakthrough, and then somehow vibrationally, I am not capable of holding to that breakthrough. And so once that happens, my vibration will change. So part of it could be because of resistance. Part of it can be because the healing is still at another level, that I'm moving towards. So many times, though, people, their mind is like a rubber band. After they have a session after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the rubber band, goes back to the old program or belief, which simply means they haven't really dedicated themselves to systematic repetition of the new belief of identifying themselves completely with who they are in that inner realm. That's the key. That's the key, the dedication, because the subconscious or the subjective mind is dominated by your dominant thought pattern. It's your dominant conviction and thought pattern. And so I'm spending all these years and times changing my mindset to the feeling of the good things in life as opposed to what memory dictates.
Okay.
Because memory essentially is the Akashic record. It's your book of life. So every woman, every man is a book unto themselves. They're a library of records that they carry, and their life and their actions have all been registered in that record. And so most of them and most of us have adversities and trials, and they keep bringing that forward. And my work is about clearing the energy on that record, on those adversities. But ultimately, the person has to, do the work to imprint the new self-image.
Right. All right, and on that note, we've got to close, but it was outstanding. It was wonderful, and people can log on to presentmemory.com. And I know you also do kinesiology and sound healing, so you bring different...
No, I'm not doing it anymore. I don't do any work physically anymore. My studio is closed. I'm doing everything remotely now. So I do energy testing on my restorative spiritual reset sessions because we test everything. But I'm not doing anything live. Done.
All right.
Finito.
That's all right. That's all right. Log on to presentmemory.com. Melissa, it's been wonderful to have you on the program. Really.
Great to connect with you again, Patricia. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. Stay on the line for a minute. All right, folks, that wraps up this edition of the Patricia Raskin Positive Living Show. You can write to me, patricia@patriciaraskin.com, to get a copy of my newsletter. Or if you're thinking of doing your own program or podcast, I can help you do that. Just log on to patriciaraskin.com, and it's all there. Remember, stay healthy, stay happy, get the support you need, and know you can make your dreams come true. Until next time, I'm Patricia Raskin. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of The Patricia Raskin Show. Be sure to join Patricia Raskin and another amazing guest next Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Variety Channel. Have an outstanding week.